What's insanely creative is that we all get to connect with each other. In this room, this is what's truly amazing. Every single one of you is a thought leader. We get to connect with each other as thought leaders. And this whole experience, we get to receive lots of free information from each other. So with that being said, the 5 insanely creative reasons why NFTs are here to stay. I would like to start with our resident NFT artist, Robek.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to talk really fast because that's what I do, and also we have to fit this in really quickly. So what got me into NFTs in the first place was the idea of distributed ownership. In 2017, I had been working on a lot of distributed systems projects and federated social networking stuff with my good friend Moon back there. And he'd introduced a project called Curio Cards to me, which was this idea of like trading cards on the blockchain, and like it kind of super resonated with me because simultaneously Moon and I were working on like how can we create these distributed assets that can be utilized across multiple kinds of games and things in the future as like shared ownership thing. So got involved in Curio Cards, got super stoked on the idea, created some basically bugged the creators until they let me make some art, and then made some art, and then we talked about it and nobody knew what NFTs were. We didn't actually call them NFTs at the time. Nobody knew what any of it was. So for the past 3 years, I kind of just, faded into the distance and was like, well, this is going to be 10 years down the road before anybody understands what any of this is. Then at the beginning of the year, somebody messaged me and was like, hey man, can you give me some Curio Cards? I'm like, what are you talking about? This was a brief passing memory. And suddenly I'm back in and I discover, holy crap, there's like 10 bajillion people into this whole idea and they're now known as NFTs. And so what I did was I spent a significant amount of time trying to learn what did I miss. And I missed a lot. I saw a lot of the ideas that we had early on kind of like really excel and grow across the space. So mostly now I focus on one-on-ones, but my ideal of the future is like maybe my foundation one-on-ones or my maker place one-on-ones will be some epic legendary item in some game somewhere that will also be a really cool car in my metaverse Mark Zuckerberg world or some nonsense like that. Like there's so much opportunity to think creatively outside of just what is the original intention or representation of this asset, and like how can we leverage it creatively across these different economies in ways that create value forever, and like these different kinds of communities that you see. So that's my quick rundown, as they say, QRD.
You bring up a really good point about possibilities, and this brings me to our next panelist. Added at the last minute, Scott, I have to tell you, thank you so much for coming in. You have a lot to talk about when it comes to how this is brought into the mainstream. In your experience, what is one of your 5 insanely creative reasons why NFTs are here to stay?
Sure, thank you for having us. Look, we make TV shows for networks and Netflix and Fox, and for us, the opportunity for a community to own a piece of a TV show. We're betting on mainstream adoption, everything you all do. I mean, everybody here is a first mover. We believe educating, we talk about the waiter and waitress in Wisconsin, having them have the ability to own a piece of a show. And so we're hoping to have creators and the community own their show and really engaging with the community growth of a TV show or a movie in the future. And we think that's really the great opportunity, and really having the intellectual property tied to the NFT, and really for TVs and films and really media. And music industry is happening now, but we really think that's a real great growth opportunity.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. You guys, one thing being an artist that's so important to all of us as artists is back in the day, we gave up a lot of our intellectual property. And Scott brings up a good point. Here with NFTs, we have the opportunity to retain a portion of that in perpetuity. And I know that, Ryoma, in your experience, what would be one of your 5 insanely creative reasons why NFTs are here to stay?
Yeah, I don't know if there's just one, but over the couple of years, there's been a lot of interesting things that we've noticed. One of them is around awareness. So back in the day when we first started talking with creators, talking with collectors, you mentioned NFTs and nobody knows what you're talking about. If you talk about blockchain, they get scared. And so, even up until late last year, that was the same conversation happening. Is like, what are NFTs? No one really knew. But at least this year, since the Christie's Beeple auction happened, that has changed. There's a lot more people coming into NFTs that they've at least heard about NFTs, and that's exciting. because now the conversation becomes a lot easier. So I can actually go out and talk about NFTs now, mention NFTs, whereas before I just stayed away from it because no one really knew what it was and it wasn't helping people come into the space, right? So that's one thing. Another one is around pricing. Back even like late last year, pricing for NFTs, you know, we were celebrating the fact that we get like $1,000 sales on some of the NFTs coming through our platform. And then you look at this year where things are now, like the pricing has just gone crazy with the amount of like money spent across the industry for each of these one-of-ones that are happening. So, you know, people aren't going to be spending that kind of amount unless they believe in the future of the technology around NFTs, right? So those are some like real valid proof points that showcase that there's staying power for NFTs. There's also lots of talent coming into the space. Like from the sports side, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have Manchester City Football Club. Music, you have Shakira, you have Deadmau5. Fine art, you have Urs Fischer coming into this space. So there's a lot of talent that's coming into the space that's bringing their own followers along with it. So each new collector that or creator that comes along, they're bringing their own collectors, their existing fan base, which is growing the NFT ecosystem. And there's no shortage of these new talent that's trying to come into the space. You even have like old players like the Christies and Sotheby's providing legitimacy to the space. You have the big brands now, like the Facebook and the Coinbase is coming into the space. So, you know, all these big brands that are coming into the space, it's hard to imagine that NFTs are going to go away anytime soon. And I guess the last thing that I think about that's really, you know, highlight their staying power is around the scammers that are coming into the space, right? Scammers are very creative people, and they only come to this space when they see that there's real value that they can get out of it. And there's tons and tons of scammers coming to it. Like people are impersonating platforms, impersonating popular creators, and so, you know, there's more of that kind of stuff to happen. So, you know, you kind of put all that into the package, you can see NFTs are going to stay around for like quite a long time, I would imagine.
I agree with you. You know, Maker's Place, it brings something to mind. When I think about Maker's Place, I'm thinking about, like all of us, thought leaders, community leaders, people who were on the first wave. And our final panelist that's on the stage with us, we have James Keck. Now, James Keck's company, Motoblock, I know we were talking in private, and he had some really very unique thoughts about how NFTs are here to stay using supply chain. James, could you tell us more about what we were speaking up upstairs and in a few of our meetings?
Yeah. Well, I guess my use case is more or less like a mindset. Because I think now what we're talking about is great as far as collectibles and digital art, because that's kind of the first natural step. Because those pieces are born digital, so something that's as significant a change as an NFT to something digital, that makes sense that we're starting there. But it's really to kind of shift the mindset of a collectible, and what I would like to say, everything now is probably an asset, and really look at NFTs more as an infrastructure. Because if we look at kind of break down, go through all the hype, what an NFT is at its core layer, it's really something that's programmable, something that's digital.
Let's talk closer to the microphone, please.
Sorry. And something that's digital. And with that, I mean, essentially any industry is open, such as supply chains. So as Ryoma was talking about, the different brands and celebrities that are coming into Makerspace, now imagine different industries. Imagine like Ford Motor Company, imagine Walmart. Now taking that same technology, but using it for things for their operations. At Motoblock, we're starting kind of how everyone else is with the asset first, having a digital collectible, but then we see that can unlock a whole new world, whether that's, you know, making things physical to digital and being able to connect that, whether it's ownership history, maybe it's a service record on your car, or the opposite, from digital to physical. And I think we're seeing that today, like the yacht party that Bored Ape threw. You know, I mean, it's a digital thing that unlocked a physical experience. And we kind of see it going both ways, and really that NFTs is maybe not only a key part of the infrastructure for tomorrow, but really the main or crucial part.
Main crucial part. Ooh, you laying it down. I like it. I saw you fidgeting, Scott. So let's see. You know, James really brings up a good point. The main crucial part. In your insanely creative reasons why NFTs are here to stay, I know there's more that you want to share.
I love listening to everybody here talk. It's just, you know, makes my brain move, and I get really inspired. So I just can't help sit still. Too much coffee.
Me too.
Look, I mean, something Maker Place said. We just signed a deal with the WWE. We want to help mean, that's a huge active community. A lot of them don't know what it means. And again, we're afraid of scammers too. So how do you help educate mainstream people and own? And you don't want people to start, creating things that are, you want things that old people can own and know they have an asset there and their fandom really can prove it. And I think creating something at a good price point that they own and that both has a utility, has social clout, and has value. But it's not about creating this price run. This is really about actually ownership of your time spent. And I think that's really what everybody hears about. It's taking your fandom and your expenditure and making it an asset. And I think the game community has done that. I think everybody here has done that. And to me, that's what's so fascinating about just this whole movement and what the ability is, really your time spent and your money spent, and be able to show that off and have value for that in a liquidity asset, which is really powerful.
So Robek, speaking of the liquidity and the utility as an artist, how has this changed how you approach what you're doing within your art?
Yeah, so I've actually kind of shifted away from doing art in the present right now. One of the opportunities that I've had this year is that there's a huge value add for people in economically inaccessible areas. People are able to start participating in NFT economies in ways that they never had access to before. And so what I've shifted into is there's a lot of new artists that really want to get into this space. There's a lot of new artists that really want to understand it, but they have to cut through the constant misinformation, the constant risk. When you are an artist entering this space, it is still quite the risk. If you have an established fan base, if you have established things, people consider potentially it could damage your principles and your whatever. So what I've been focusing on, and with a really good group of core people, is educating both the artists that are getting attacked on Twitter or whatever, educating the artists entering the space, providing, we have mint scholarships through our Anim Mafia stuff, where it's hey, if you want to test this out, if you want to see how this stuff works, please, come in. It's not to, try to pump these people up to ginormous things. It's just to teach them and educate people. Because I think one of the most important things, if we want to keep NFTs here, for the long run, here to stay, is we have to educate everyone, and that's a grassroots effort. If you're not out there actively engaging with people or talking to people taking the risk and making this stuff, there's not going to be other people who are doing it. There's not other people here to save you from regulators or from these predators, and there's a lot of them. To talk about scammers, they're pretty good, but there's also people that feel they're good in faith people that are hey, I'll send you money on PayPal and then mint this NFT and send it to me. And then those people will then resell that NFT for a high price, and that hurts the artist. And so there's just all kinds of different avenues that are worth exploring to kind of share that stuff. So as an artist who used to do artist alley conventions, commissions, I understand the intense amount of work it is, and to have an opportunity to be creative and really do what you want to do with an active, engaged community is really valuable. And so I just want to spread that stuff. That's what I've been focused on.
Ryoma, I'd like to pick your brain more about, there's so much to say. In 25 minutes, we can't get to it all. When it comes to artists and Maker's Place, what's one of the challenges that you see NFTs have been able to help us bridge that gap in bringing this mainstream?
I think for a lot of the creators that we talk with, it's about giving them more opportunities. So nowadays we hear a lot of feedback coming from the creators saying, you know what, NFTs has really changed their lives. Before they'd be working at corporate jobs or doing some side projects, not making a lot of money, but spending a lot of hours putting towards it or working on someone else's vision. Now they have financial freedom, they have financial creativity, where they can work their own hours, work on the projects that they actually want to, and make more money. And hearing more and more of these stories come up on a daily basis, it's happening more frequently, and it's hugely gratifying to hear that kind of stuff happening. Not to say that when we think about the space, it's still very, very early. There's a lot more people here at this event, which is great to see. There's a lot more people who know about NFTs, but the reality is, you ask people on the streets, hey, what's an NFT? They might have heard about it, but they have no idea what the actual tangible value of what it is. So there's a big road still ahead about how do you educate people around NFTs and what is the opportunity there? Why should people get into it from a creator and a collector perspective? And so, even thinking about utility, that kind of stuff has not been explored at all, right? So nowadays, you can buy an NFT, you can go put it on a virtual world, you can put it up on your wall, but beyond that, what can you really do with NFTs? So, as we move forward, and there's going to be more apps, more games that start to integrate NFTs, that's going to change the ecosystem. But that kind of stuff really hasn't happened. So really excited to see where things go in the future. But yeah, space is super early still.
Oh, I agree with you. Now, I know we have the microphone coming in. I'm glad we have it working. Technology, we have it on our side. My most important, and by the way, I'm going to give us a tad bit of time because I will ask at the end for each one of us to say about 30 seconds of something that's inspiring that we can leave everyone with. So I'll give you guys a couple of few minutes in your, between this space here to think of that inspiring reason why we're all here and parting words of wisdom. I believe that I go micro and I go macro. And what's important to me, the reason that I think that we have this insanely creative reason why NFTs are here to stay is I believe that NFTs are going to finally take the ability for the family unit currently now to turn around instead of being dissected with all of these things that take our energies away from each other. We now can have a conversation at the kitchen table with mom and dad, with each other, with our children, talk about legacy, how we can leave something for our children's children with the art that we create. And I think this Christmas, how awesome would it be to buy grandma her first NFT?
Let's do it.
And I have to tell you, the reason I know why to say that, my mom thinks I am up trading lollipops at 2 a.m. with people in Japan. And when I brought one of my NFTs home and showed her the utility and functionality of it, and they had episodes and characters, and they were 5 minutes long, my mom wanted more. People who aren't in the NFT space, they want more. And it's up to us to give that more to them. So to my esteemed colleagues that are here, we have about 4 minutes left on our panel, and I'll start from my right hand all the way going to my left side. So, Robek, what would your sage wisdom, parting words of advice to our crowd be?
Be genuine. I think being yourself, being genuine, and being just be you, because there's no matter how many billions of profiles or communities or whatever there are out there, if you are just being yourself, you're going to find the people that resonate with you. And we're building these digital tribes now, and that's totally fine. We're going to have different communities. You don't have to be a part of every single one of them. But yeah, just be authentic. I think that's really highly valuable. Just remember, believe in the you I believe in, or whatever.
Ryoma?
I guess from my standpoint, when I look at you guys are all at the ground floor of this NFT ecosystem. And so what I would ask is that, as part of this core group, to really go out there and educate the people out there. A lot of people still don't know what NFTs are, why they matter. And so it's up to us to kind of be working together to get that word out there, explain to people, because it's not easy. There's a lot of roadblocks involved from a just understanding behavioral perspective or from a technical perspective. And so, the more that we can do as this community to get that word out there and help people come into the space, the better that it's best for everyone to realize the value of NFTs and what can it do for the community in the future. So please, let's work on education.
Well said.
Well said. Well, new panelist, Scott Greenberg.
I'm trying to sit still. I would say be creative, and while the collectible boom is amazing, I want to challenge everybody also, let's move beyond it. And from our world, creators in the media, making film and television and music, let's leverage the tools and really push the utility of distributing content. We're very excited about the disruption of the content finance and distribution between creators and communities, and we're here to help push that out. We're showing that what we're trying to do with The Masked Singer, which is the #1 show on TV, but ultimately the next #1 show on TV should be from community and the creators on the blockchain, and that's what we're excited about.
On the blockchain. So James, that means you get the final word to say. Oh my.
Thanks. Well, kind of similar to Scott, I would say to look through the hype or look past the hype in two areas. We look at now today with NFTs, look through the hype and really connect with the NFT or collectible with the community that you like, that you associate with, regardless if it's trending or not, or whoever is promoting it and stuff like that. But I think more importantly, kind of along the lines with education, is look past the hype and look at what the technology will do in the future, not necessarily what it's doing today. And the profound effects it could have, again, across industries, not just the one we're seeing at right now.